Amazing journey. Discover how a struggling woman found herself in the home of a millionaire. Jessica's vision blurred as she stepped from her clunky delivery vehicle, a rumble of anxious thoughts drowning out the world around her. All she wanted was to make enough money to keep the lights on, but today her spirit felt questionably close to the edge. She should have been at the diner, serving customers and juggling flirty banter. Anything but this. Her delivery took her into an affluent neighborhood where sprawling mansions taunted her with grandeur. The irony twisted in her gut when she peered at the immaculate lawns and pricey cars. Could their owners fathom what she carried on her shoulders? As she approached Oliver's estate, her heart sank deeper. Never had she set eyes on a home so pristine. It felt heavy under the scrutiny of impossible dreams of art school acceptance she once cherished. She forced herself forward, holding a takeout bag as if it contained the last remaining pieces of her hope. She hesitated at the massive entrance, her palms growing clammy as if she'd just been handed a ticking time bomb of aspiration. "Delivery!" she shouted in a shaky voice. Oliver emerged, a tall figure wrapped in shadows, his aura both haunting and inviting. The walls of his home seemed to breathe creativity and tragedy, a jarring contrast to her cramped apartment that suffocated her ambitions. "It's beautiful," Jessica whispered, involuntarily stepping inside, the air thick with possibility and her own inadequacy. "We need to talk about art," he suggested, his tone soft yet demanding. A bolt of electricity shot through her, igniting the flickers of passion she had long abandoned. But could he see her, or was she merely a cog in his affluent world? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. His marbled walls weren't merely glamorous, they felt like they were closing in on her uncertainties. Doubt dripped into her mind. Was she too ordinary for this world? Would her past define her future? She wrestled with the surreal connection forming between them, and with each exchanged word, layers of her hesitation peeled away. But when she returned home, the echoes of her friends' laughter morphed into whispers of doubt. "He's just another rich guy," they claimed, skepticism washing over their faces. A pit of anxiety gnawed at her stomach. Was she just another reflection of their societal divides? And what of the legacy in the letter she discovered, a family history steeped in art talent? Was she destined to dive into this life of privilege, or should she cling steadfastly to her struggles as her badge of honor? Oliver's words loomed over her, dark and inviting, and she felt herself teetering dangerously on the edge. Could she trust him? Could she trust herself in this newfound pursuit? Her breath quickened. Societal shadows threatened to shatter her fragile confidence. Doubt clawed at her insides, and in isolation she felt the weight of the world balancing far too precariously on her shoulders. And to think, as she edged closer to unraveling the complexities of her own identity, the real battle lay ahead, between the person she aimed to become and the life she had always known. What would she choose? Would she dare chase after her past aspirations, or let the fog of uncertainty shroud her dreams once and for all? As the shadows whispered around her, Jessica felt the monumental weight of her decision crashing upon her, an engulfing darkness that left her breathless and yearning for light. Jessica stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, the cold tile beneath her as unyielding as her insecurities. Her eyes, red-rimmed and weary, told stories of sleepless nights consumed by anxiety and self-doubt. She opened her mouth to speak, but the image of her defeated self made the words choke in her throat. What did she really want? The answer fluttered within her, elusive and tantalizing like a flickering candle struggling against fierce wind. After the evening spent in Oliver's mesmerizing home, the ache in her heart was undeniable. A path, once shrouded by the weight of obligation, now shimmered before her, cloaked in fear, yet glimmering with potential. Her phone buzzed beside the sink, an intrusive reminder of reality. An alarming text from her boss at the diner flashed across the screen. "Need you on double shifts this week, no exceptions." The groan that escaped her lips was a constellation of frustration and resignation. The diner was a safety net, tightly woven with familiarity and suffering, a place that was at once a refuge and a prison. But she had tasted something different, something exhilarating and elusive that evening at Oliver's home. An invitation to create, to reignite ambition. With renewed urgency, she picked up a brush and began to apply makeup as if she were crafting armor. Each stroke felt like a declaration, a silent defiance against the narrative written for her. She suddenly remembered Oliver mentioning an art exhibit at a local gallery. Would it truly be possible to navigate this intersection of her aspirations and her reality? The thought sent a rush of adrenaline through her. The canvas of her life was awaiting vibrant strokes, yet she hovered on the precipice of indecision. With a surge of determination, she typed out a message to Oliver, her fingers trembling with excitement and fear, unsure if he would respond. "Could we meet again? I'd love to discuss art and maybe how I might fit into your world." As she sent the message, anxiety twisted her stomach, but there was an equally fierce resolve blossoming within her. She was preparing to confront not just Oliver, but the trappings of her own doubts that felt too comfortable. Days passed, thick with tension, as she awaited his reply like a bated breath. When it finally arrived, Oliver's response was succinct yet electric. "Meet me at the gallery tomorrow, 7 p.m. That evening, Jessica slipped into a dress that hung in her closet, a piece of fabric she had once deemed too fancy for her ordinary life. It felt foreign against her skin, like a bridge to a version of herself that had long been abandoned. She stepped into the shoes of a woman about to embark on a journey filled with uncertainty, yet the thrill of it all ignited her spirit. As she approached the gallery, her heart raced, not just in anticipation of seeing Oliver, but also in the impending confrontation with her own choice, to embrace the unknown and potentially redefine herself. Inside, the cacophony of voices swam around her, mingling with the overwhelming scent of paint and polished wood, a stark contrast to the hollow din of the diner. She felt, for the first time in years, that she was no longer merely a participant, but a contender for something greater. Oliver spotted her from across the room, his smile warm and inviting. But even as it made her pulse quicken, the weight of expectation pressed down on her. In that moment, Jessica had to choose. Would she step fully into this new world, allowing her dreams and passions to gel with who she was becoming? Or would she turn back to the familiarity of her past? The answer loomed over her, intense and palpable. The moment of truth had approached, and somewhere inside, Jessica felt the stirrings of courage. Yet as she gripped the edge of possibility, another thought tugged at her, a shadow of doubt that refused to vanish. Would she truly belong in a world glittering with the promise of art? Or would her roots pull her back into the shadows of her former life? Jessica moved through the gallery, her senses heightened by the intoxicating blend of art and ambition. Paintings adorned the walls, each piece a vibrant testament to the creativity that sparked within her. But as she stepped further into the room, the specter of self-doubt crept in again, dampening her resolve. What if her dreams were too lofty? What if she was nothing more than an imposter in this dazzling world? She navigated through clusters of art enthusiasts, their laughter and animated discussions amplifying her internal conflict. Oliver approached, a beacon of warmth amidst her swirling uncertainties. "You made it," he said, his genuine joy easing her tension for a fleeting moment. As he gestured to a vibrant abstract piece nearby, Jessica's heart fluttered. "What do you think?" he asked, his eyes shining with the passion that had captivated her during their last encounter. "It's beautiful," she breathed, but her voice trembled. Each brushstroke seemed to echo the tumult of her own feelings, the chaos she had long resisted confronting. The world of art was foreign, yet captivating, like a delicate melody unlocking long-forgotten notes within her. Oliver not only noticed her hesitation, but he also read the undercurrents of her turmoil. Art is about exploration. It's okay not to have all the answers right away. His words stirred something within her. She realized that this evening wasn't merely about navigating the art world, it was a chance to carve out her identity, to step away from the narrative society had scripted for her. The gallery wasn't just a space filled with color, it was a realm where her potential could unfurl. "Do you create?" he inquired, his eyes narrowing with curiosity. The question lingered, charged with possibility. Was she ready to embrace that part of herself? Jessica hesitated, her heartbeat drumming in her ears. "I used to." The admission felt like a crack breaking the surface of a dam. The silence that followed was heavy with unseen aspirations and regrets. Without missing a beat, Oliver leaned closer, encouraging her to elaborate. "What was it that you used to create?" Taking a deep breath, she decided to dive into the most unexpected corner of her history, a narrative she had buried beneath layers of doubt and second-guessing. "Paintings, watercolors mostly. I loved the fluidity of it, how colors blended, morphing into something new. But," she trailed off, the familiar weight of self-doubt settling back in. "But?" he prodded gently, a guiding light illuminating her fears. "I thought it was just a phase, a childish dream." She shrugged, trying to mask the mixture of shame and longing brewing within. The look in Oliver's eyes shifted, softening, as he took a step back to view her more fully. "Jessica, art is not just a phase. It's a journey, and you're still on it, no matter how far you've wandered." His words hung in the air, resonating with an authenticity she craved. She felt herself standing on the precipice of something significant, yet the safety net of her past loomed nearby. Would she allow herself to plunge into this new experience, or would she retreat to the comfort of her old life? Do you think I could belong here?" she dared to ask, vulnerability flooding her tone. A small smile crept onto Oliver's face. "You already do. You simply have to let yourself in." She swallowed hard, fighting against the instinct to back away from this opportunity. Just as she considered the possibilities, a nearby group erupted in laughter, snapping her back to the present. In that moment of clarity, Jessica realized the choice was hers alone. Would she sketch the outlines of her fear, or would she allow the vibrant colors of her aspirations to flourish and take shape? As if on cue, a stunning piece on the far wall caught her eye, a mixed media installation pulsating with life. It mirrored the swirling chaos she felt inside, yet it was beautifully, masterfully constructed. Perhaps this was how she needed to approach her own life. A melange of influences and experiences, each piece playing its vital role. She located Oliver again, ready to voice the first stirrings of her dreams, to transform her fears into aspirations. Before she could take a step toward him, however, the din of the gallery shifted. A woman stepped forward, interrupting the moment. a renowned artist with a reputation for ruthlessness. "Oliver," she said, her voice sharp, cutting through Jessica's emerging confidence, "I need a word with you." As Oliver reluctantly turned, Jessica's heart sank. Had this woman come to consolidate Oliver's loyalties, drowning out her renewed sense of purpose? A tight knot formed in her stomach. Would this encounter be her breaking point, or a moment of reckoning? The chill of uncertainty swept over her as she pieced together her next move, teetering on the verge of discovery. One question echoed in her mind. Could she reclaim her narrative amid this unfolding drama? Jessica stood frozen, her heart racing as she watched Oliver engage with the formidable artist. She felt the walls of confidence she had begun to build start to crumble, leaving her exposed and vulnerable. The world spun with a cacophony of laughter and spirited voices around her, yet she felt ensnared in a storm of doubt. The woman, famed for her razor-sharp critiques and cutthroat ambition, leaned in close, her expression intensely focused on Oliver as they exchanged hushed words. Each fleeting glance he shot back at Jessica felt heavy with unspoken comparisons, dismantling the courage she had mustered moments ago. Could she truly belong in this world if it came tethered to someone with such stature and influence? The thought clutched at her, and a wave of self-doubt crashed over her again. She inhaled sharply, trying to regain focus. This wasn't about them. It was about her journey, her claim to wade into these waters of creativity. Yet as Oliver turned back toward her, the enticing glimmer she had caught in his eyes moments ago dissipated, replaced by an apologetic shadow. "I'm sorry, Jessica," he said, the sincerity in his voice piercing through the fog of her uncertainty. "Can you give me a second? I really need to handle this." A spark of indignation flared within her. Why was she always the one waiting on the sidelines? The reckless heroine she once envisioned in her watercolored dreams would never allow herself to be cast into the background. Frustration laced with determination surged. She wouldn't retreat into the margins. She would stand her ground, even if it meant navigating the fallout of rejection. "Of course," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. As he walked away, she steadied herself by reflecting on the pieces surrounding her, still resonating with that previous explosive energy of potential. Each canvas a prompt to remember her own creative spirit. "Make something of yourself," she murmured, under her breath. She scanned the crowd again, determined to turn this moment into a catalyst rather than an obstacle. She shifted her focus inward, recalling the pleasant chaos of blending colors in her art, how a mere brushstroke could convey narratives of her uncharted depths. But how could she reclaim art for herself here? Perhaps isolation in this setting could become an opportunity for expression. Would her story resonate with others? With newfound resolve, she wove through the thrumming energy of the gallery, sketching a mental map of the pieces that spoke to her. Each artist's story emanated like a whisper, relaying empowerment she craved. She approached an installation, closely observing its intricate layers, reminiscent of her own convoluted experiences. Then a thought ignited a fire within her, a desire to share her narrative, even if it ruffled feathers or stirred discontent. If she claimed her voice today, it could serve as a bridge between dreams and reality, her timid existence burgeoning into a brilliant display of color and shape. Jessica took a deep breath, the weight on her shoulders shifting. The urgency of the moment pressed against her like a canvas awaiting paint. She felt the space shift, her spirit resonating with an invisible thread connecting her to the artists in the room. As Oliver returned, she met his eyes, aflame with intention. "I want to show my art here," she announced, surprising even herself. A challenge formed at the edge of her tongue. I'm ready to reclaim my narrative." His brow furrowed, a mix of surprise and concern flickering across his features. Yet even amidst the uncertainty, she sensed a glimmer of respect in his eyes. "And what will it take for you to reveal your story?" he asked slowly, the warmth of their previous connection still glowing in the background. Jessica's heart quickened. The moment felt like stepping into a realm untraveled. Could her ambition intertwine with her vulnerability? Steeling herself, she squared her shoulders, embracing the unknown with resolve. "I'll figure it out," she declared firmly, envisioning the first strokes of her new display igniting her journey forward. And with that declaration, a new fear danced on the horizon. What if vulnerability opened a floodgate she wasn't prepared for? What if her art became a mirror reflecting truths she'd rather leave concealed? Finding courage in the turmoil, she took a step toward Oliver, her heartbeat thrumming with newfound purpose. Questions of progress and fate loomed ahead. This was merely the beginning of her pursuit. But in that moment of resolve, a potent realization echoed through her. The greatest art she could create was her own life, a canvas ripe for exploration, brimming with potential. As she pushed forward, the world around her pulsed with anticipation, waiting to see if she would dare to fill it with her colors. The air thickened with possibilities as Oliver observed her closely, clearly intrigued by her daring change in trajectory. What now? Jessica contemplated, grit sharpening every thought. What must she face to truly embrace her potential in this vibrant world? As Jessica stood mesmerized by the swirling colors of the gallery, her internal landscape began to shift. The heart of her ambition pulsed in tandem with the art around her, evolving into a tangible force that demanded expression. She felt a doorway open within her, a passage leading to an unknown realm of creativity that beckoned her to step through. "Show your art," she had said. The phrase resonated deeply, spiraling into an intricate weave of dreams and fears. What did that truly entail? The fleeting vision of her brush dancing across canvas took root, unraveling layers of doubt as she let herself contemplate the nuances of what was hidden beneath her surface. Every glance she cast at Oliver ignited a new blend of emotions. Admiration, a pinch of rivalry, and budding confidence warred within her. She drew strength from her curiosity rather than feeling intimidated. This was about more than Oliver's perception. This was about self-liberation. Turning away from the interaction they'd shared, she found her footing once more, mentally solidifying a plan. She recalled the artists whose work had mesmerized her earlier. What stories lay cloaked in those hues? Could her vulnerability catalyze something transformative, not only for herself, but perhaps for others? As anxiety nestled in the back of her mind, she resolved to confront it head-on. The answer lay in action. With determination coursing through her, she approached the installation she had admired, a series of canvases that wrestled with loss and rebirth. Each piece spoke of struggle. The emotive brushstrokes seemed to whisper of resilience. She stood transfixed, feeling the electric energy of the unresolved emotions that were so vividly alive in their forms. "Maybe I should curate my narrative through art," she mused quietly. The thought ignited an internal conversation where she challenged herself. What risks was she willing to take? What depths of her own experience was she ready to explore on canvas? She began to formulate a strategy. Her story had layers: abandonment, yearning for belonging, the transformative journey through self-doubt. Each aspect could be translated into vivid depictions of struggle and triumph. But would she dare reveal such intimate pieces of her life? Questions swirled like paint mixing on a palette. A decision crystallized in her mind. A self-portrait series, raw and unfiltered, depicting different stages of her journey. Each canvas would symbolize a phase in her evolution. An intense wave of excitement washed over her as she pictured a soul exhibition adorned with her essence, vibrantly challenging her own norms and those of the audience. Will Oliver support this? Can I count on him to understand? She wondered, anticipating the confrontation of her own fears of rejection and critiques of the elite. Jessica was ready for that discussion. The fear of others' judgment now appeared as a mere backdrop to her developing narrative, a specter rather than a barrier. She hadn't asked herself before, what was art, if not a confrontation with truths? Smiled at the thought, feeling lighter as she sought Oliver amidst the chaos once more. The gallery felt different now, bursting with potential rather than intimidation. Her heart thudded with resolute confidence as she spotted him engrossed in conversation with another artist, discussing inspirations, visions, all while she contemplated her own. Now or never, she whispered under her breath, summoning resolve. As the distance between them bridged, she felt exhilarating anticipation flooding her veins. This conversation was not only about her art. It was about seizing her power and striving beyond the identity others had constructed for her. What if he reacts negatively? What if he doesn't take my ambition seriously? Doubts trilled chaotically at the corners of her consciousness, but she quelled them with an audacious belief in what she was about to share. "Oliver," she called out, her voice steady, breaking through his laughter in conversations. He turned to her, curiosity sparking in his eyes. "I need to talk to you about my exhibit. This is who I really am. It's time we discuss how it connects." In that moment, she realized her narrative had begun. She was no mere spectator in her story. She was the creator, the artist, transforming identity into performance. Moments of revelation pulsed through her as she braced for the unfolding of her raw truths, ready to navigate whatever followed. And as they stood toe-to-toe in the vibrant crowd, Jessica suddenly understood that baring her soul could very well be the transformative disruption she'd feared and needed. Would he amplify her voice or amplify her fears? In that moment of reinvention, she felt breathless. And what will reveal my truth truly lead to? The question loomed vibrant as she awaited his response, the primal urge for acceptance and understanding coursing through her veins. Oliver's brow furrowed with intrigue, and Jessica could see the wheels of contemplation turning in his mind. In that fleeting moment, any fear she harbored simmered beneath the surface, simultaneously urging her to speak and holding her back. As his attention pivoted fully to her, she seized the opportunity, leaning in closer. "I've been thinking about a series of self-portraits," she began, her voice steady yet infused with the tremors of vulnerabilities she was unearthing. "Art that represents the different phases of my journey, each layer, each emotion." She felt her heart pick up pace as she spoke, the intensity of her vision surging through her words. This was not just a proposal. It was a declaration of self, and she could almost feel the weight of possibility filling the space around them. Oliver tilted his head, his expression shifting as he began to appreciate the depth of her proposal. "That sounds ambitious, Jess. What inspired you to go this route?" Jessica hesitated, teetering across the precipice of her insecurities. Yet food for thought loomed large. "I realized that I can't keep hiding behind generalized themes. Each stroke should tell my story, confront my fears about belonging, about acceptance." She was soaring now. The more she spoke, the more clarity emerged. Each word seemed to intonate with a rhythm of its own, revealing a layer of her psyche she had long buried. "Whether it's the abandonment I felt growing up or the moments when I truly found myself, it's all part of me," Jessica continued, emboldened by her conviction. "I want to challenge others to confront their truths too." A moment passed as Oliver absorbed her words. She watched as the flicker in his eyes transitioned from curiosity to an unmistakable spark of understanding. A realization emerged. He had been a constant in her journey, but now this conversation placed him in a new role, a potential collaborator on her artistic evolution. "This is a pivotal moment for you," he finally said, and she sensed a tone of approval coupled with a hint of caution. "But you know, revealing these truths won't come without a price, right? There's a risk associated with vulnerability." Jessica's breath caught. This was the very chasm she'd been navigating, daring to explore the fine line between exposure and self-preservation. "I know," she replied, gathering her thoughts, "but I've been preserving for far too long. What's life without authenticity? Without the ebbs and flows of experience guiding our art?" Oliver nodded slowly, the reflection of doubt still lingering on the edges of his features. They stood amidst the dynamic hum of the gallery, people swirling around them as if they were in a bubble of clarity. "What you're doing is vital," he said at last, "but understand, your art will evoke emotions. Not everyone will resonate with your truth." The knowledge felt heavy yet liberating. It ignited confusion alongside a fierce thrill within her. Facing a future where she could be misunderstood challenged her. But in that very challenge, Jessica felt a newfound resolve crystallize. "I want my work to provoke thought, to spark conversation," she asserted. "Even if that conversation is uncomfortable, isn't that what the best art does?" Oliver smiled, admiration evident in his eyes. "That, Jess, is what separates good art from true expression. Embrace it, but prepare for the journey ahead." As they shared this moment, she felt invigorated, buoyed by his words of support. The gulf of fear narrowed, replaced by bubbling excitement. The groundwork for her exhibition was unfolding before her, and yet the road ahead remained uncertain, a wild terrain to navigate. "Can we talk more about this?" Jessica asked, swept up in momentum. "Maybe explore some ideas, or even collaborate on sharing insights. Your perspective is invaluable." Oliver's smile broadened. "Absolutely. Let's meet again soon. This sounds like a project that could redefine you." A wave of joy surged through her, suddenly rupturing the emotional barriers she had fought to contain. Here was the partnership she hadn't known she needed. In that moment, clarity revealed a new pathway. But somewhere deep within, unease whispered its chilling warning. Was she truly ready to embark on this journey of unveiling her past and confronting her innermost fears? As Jessica left the gallery that night, visions of her self-portraits danced in her mind. The canvas awaited her, an expanse of potential to fill with her journey of self-exploration. Yet the foundational question remained. What would she discover about herself in the process, and could she bear the weight of those revelations? Little did she know, the very act of creating her art would trigger unforeseen challenges that might rock the foundations of her newly found self. Jessica spent the following days in a haze of inspiration and apprehension. Each morning she rose with the sun, her ambition fueled by the lingering echoes of her conversation with Oliver. The prospect of expressing her truth on canvas both thrilled and terrified her. She could envision the pieces vividly, strong, chaotic strokes mingling with softer, tentative hues, each self-portrait a snapshot of her evolving identity. As she stood in her cramped studio, a clutter of brushes, paints, and half-finished canvases surrounding her, self-doubt crept back, whispering insidiously. Could she truly translate her inner turmoil onto the canvas? What if the world didn't accept her? Was she ready to delve into the anguish of her past, the abandonment, the struggle for acceptance, the lingering shadows of insecurity? She clasped a paintbrush tightly, its handle digging into her palm, grounding her in the physical world. The familiar scent of linseed oil filled her lungs, stirring memories of her childhood spent lost in the world of art. Painting had always been her comfort, but now it felt like a daunting challenge. The stakes had never felt so high. Determined to step outside this whirlwind of self-doubt, she began to sketch the first draft of her first self-portrait. An image surfaced in her mind, a reflection of her childhood self, wide-eyed and vulnerable, surrounded by a chaotic backdrop symbolizing her troubled past. She captured the emotions swirling within her, conveying them through vivid colors. As the paint began to flow, she let her heart guide her, resisting the urge to rein in her expressiveness. The hours rolled into each other as she worked, her worries momentarily silenced by the rhythm of creation. She felt a sense of empowerment starting to arise from deep within. Each brushstroke felt like a step toward authenticity. Jessica relished the feel of paint beneath her fingertips, allowing that connection to invigorate her spirit. However, a familiar wave of apprehension would wash over her as she concluded for the day. The question persisted: would anyone truly understand these portraits? Was she prepared for the scrutiny that would inevitably accompany her revelations? Every portrait represented not just her experiences, but also the part of her mind that feared rejection. In the evenings, thoughts of Oliver resurfaced, their conversations igniting a flicker of excitement within her. She was eager to share her progress, to hear his thoughts, but an underlying fear of criticism gnawed at her. Would he appreciate her raw approach? Would he support her vision in the way she craved? As days morphed into a week, the first self-portrait remained unfinished, an unfinished expression of her struggle hanging over her while the next portrait beckoned, urging her forward through the swirls of color and form. She hesitated, uncertain about her next steps. Surely there was a deeper exploration to be made here. Her journey wasn't limited to the binds of her childhood. As she pondered, she stumbled upon a revelation. Each challenge she faced in her art mirrored the obstacles she encountered outside of it. This realization sent an exhilarating shiver down her spine. The canvas had the potential to become a mirror, reflecting her growing understanding of not only her fears, but her aptitude to confront and evolve from them. It wasn't just a display of vulnerability, it was an assertion of her strength. With renewed determination, she decided to schedule a meeting with Oliver, to share her progress and the thoughts swirling within her. Would this be enough to break through the internal barriers that still held her back? Could he help her navigate the tumultuous emotional landscape she was beginning to paint? That night, as she lay in bed, she imagined her vulnerability merging with her newly embraced power, creating a potent force she could harness. A daring notion pierced through the fading twilight. She was done playing it safe. It was time to step into the depths of her narrative and let it unfurl. The urge to express herself in a way she had never dared before was intoxicating. She could sense the potential for transformation, not just in her art, but within her very being. With that conviction fresh in her mind, she began to draft an email to Oliver, her heart racing in rhythm with each thought she penned. Would this journey lead to a confrontation with her inner adversaries, or was it simply the beginning of a grander evolution? As she hit send, a new layer of anticipation filled her chest. The journey ahead loomed like an uncharted territory, a landscape rich with both peril and potential. What awaited her on the other side of this leap into vulnerability? And as her doubts battled her determination, Jessica prepared herself for the inevitable answer. Could she face the looming specter of her past while nurturing the hopeful projection of her future? Only time would tell. Jessica's heart raced as she awaited Oliver's response to her email. Each minute felt like an eternity wrapped in a cocoon of anxious anticipation. Would he see the potential that lay within her unrefined brushstrokes, the raw emotion embedded in her unfinished canvas? She paced around her studio, fingers brushing against the varied textures of her work, trying to absorb the comfort of familiarity. In the hours that followed, the sunlight shifted, casting elongated shadows across her workspace. Time slipped away as she found herself trapped between wanting to create and fearing her own inadequacies. The first self-portrait, a mirror of her vulnerability, sat there unfinished, each passing moment taunting her reluctance. Was she stalling, out of fear, or was it merely a matter of needing to breathe before diving deeper? Just as doubt was thickening, her phone buzzed, jolting her from her reverie. The screen illuminated with a notification. Oliver had replied. Her pulse quickened as she snatched up the device, scrolling his response with an urgency that teetered on desperation. "Jessica, I'd love to see your work. How about we meet this weekend? I'm eager to hear your thoughts." Relief washed over her, momentarily washing away the anxiety hovering like a fog. But soon the realization hit. She would have to articulate her journey, to recount not just her artistic process, but the tangled emotions that birthed it. The prospect was exhilarating, yet terrifying. Could she even find the words to convey the depths of her internal struggles? Feeling emboldened, Jessica turned back toward her canvas. The chaotic strokes awaited her, demanding life, color, and intention. With renewed vigor, she approached the easel, intending not just to finish the painting, but to confront the emotions she had initially hesitated to display. Each stroke became an act of defiance against her fear. She splashed colors across the canvas, bold reds for her anger, somber blues for her sorrow, and swirling yellows for the flickering hope that dared to grow out of despair. As the hours passed, Jessica immersed herself in a trance-like state. The studio pulsated with her emotions, and the shift from uncertainty to fierce determination felt electric. She was no longer merely painting, she was conquering her inner demons, and each completed section of the painting was a triumph over the self-imposed barriers of her past. When she finally stepped back to survey her work, a rush of adrenaline surged through her veins. The portrait was more than a reflection of her childhood self, it evolved into an assertion of her resilience. The chaos surrounding her childhood echoing a journey toward self-acceptance. A brick wall she had built around her vulnerability began to crumble. It wasn't perfection that mattered, it was authenticity. With the sunlight dimming, the urgency of her upcoming meeting loomed ahead. As she cleaned her brushes, another realization dawned upon her. It wasn't just Oliver's opinion that mattered, it was her own acceptance and love for her work that would serve as the true foundation of her growth. He was merely a catalyst, a sounding board for the truths she was ready to embrace. Jessica turned her thoughts inward, considering the enormity of the revelations she had encountered through her art. Every stroke represented not just her past, but a stepping stone toward the woman she aspired to be. The blooming confidence discouraged any retreat into doubt. As she prepared for bed, anticipation settled in her chest. Would Oliver understand? Would he see her as she was trying to show herself? Messy, complex, beautifully flawed. What if their conversation pushed her to confront aspects of herself she had kept hidden? She knew the coming weekend could transform her artistic journey into something greater. But it was also the potential for vulnerability that left her anxiously awake. She would meet Oliver, face her fears, and share not only her art but her story. But as she closed her eyes that night, the nagging question lingered. Would she emerge victorious, or would old insecurities rear their heads and pull her back into darkness? Jessica braced herself, ready for an encounter that could redefine everything she had worked for. The moment of truth had arrived. She just hoped she would be strong enough to embrace it. The week dragged on, each day stretching into the next like an unending line of uncertainty. Jessica awoke with a swirl of emotions: hope, dread, determination. She could hardly focus on her art or daily tasks, her mind replaying their upcoming conversation in a loop. Every interaction, every brushstroke felt marred by an impending significance. Saturday arrived at last, the golden sun climbing lazily into the sky, warming her studio while simultaneously igniting the anxiety within her. She spent the morning pacing, wrestling with conflicting desires to appear confident yet reveal her raw vulnerability. She wanted to show Oliver the depth of her art, but could she display the depths of herself? After a restless morning of preparations, Jessica decided to create one last piece before heading to her meeting. It was simple, a small canvas depicting a lone figure standing on the edge of a cliff, facing a tumultuous sea. It symbolized her own journey, a reflection of the risk she was about to take. The winds of change brushed against her thoughts. The deep blues of the ocean contrasted sharply with the warm yellows of the figure's essence. She found solace in the process. With each stroke, she discovered a sense of clarity, an inner voice whispering that this act was a manifestation of her growth. Finally, one last glance in the mirror assured her that she was ready. She donned her favorite outfit, simple yet sophisticated, to project both her creativity and her readiness for this pivotal meeting. As she walked out the door, she felt a mix of resolve and trepidation. The world felt both beautiful and terrifying, an intricate tapestry of possibilities waiting to unravel. Arriving at Oliver's studio brought waves of familiarity and anxiety. It was expansive, filled with natural light and art that spoke volumes, yet none of it felt as personal as the chaos of her own work. She walked through the space, absorbing the ambiance. A pivotal choice lay ahead. Would she let her insecurities drown her talent, or would she rise to the occasion? When Oliver appeared, welcoming her with an easy smile, her heart raced anew. The moment felt loaded with expectation. "Jessica, I can't wait to see what you've been working on," he said, his enthusiasm steadying her nerves, if only slightly. They moved to a corner where her completed portrait stood, vibrant and ferocious. She could hear her own breath quicken as she pointed to it, her voice wavering. This is me, in a way. Raw, unfinished, but real." He studied the painting with keen interest, brows furrowing in thought. "This is powerful. You've captured something primal here. The energy is almost palpable." Jessica felt a flicker of warmth against the chill of doubt that threatened to pull her under. She shared the story behind each stroke, a leap into her childhood and her emotional landscape. Oliver listened, nodding, his gaze unwavering. Something shifted within her. The weight of her vulnerability began to lighten as the conversation turned into a dialogue, a collaboration of understanding. As they discussed her journey, she realized that seeking validation was secondary to owning her narrative. She was the architect of her own identity, the one wielding the brush. With each exchange of ideas, her confidence swelled. What had once seemed so daunting felt like exploration rather than examination. However, just as a sense of buoyancy enveloped her, there was an underlying tension. An unspoken question hovered in the air, threatening to set its claws in her newfound resolve. "Your work is extraordinary, but have you thought about how you want to bring it to a wider audience?" Oliver's voice was gentle but firm, almost probing. Jessica met his gaze, a flicker of fear flashing across her mind. Could she expose herself to criticism, to vulnerability on a grander scale? The choice was heavy yet invigorating. Would she dare to leap into the unknown, or would she retreat to safety? Oliver's question echoed in her mind as Jessica stood at the cusp of discovery, a choice that could shape her career and her very essence. Could she embrace this challenge and the potential it carried? The path forward wavered somewhere between fear and limitless opportunity, and her heart echoed back the urgency of her thoughts. It was in this moment, both exhilarating and nerve-wracking, that Jessica realized she was standing at the beginning of something transformative. Would she allow her art to be her voice, or would she retreat again into silence? The answer awaited her, just beyond the horizon of her own courage. Jessica took a deep breath, the weight of Oliver's question heavy upon her chest. As she stood in the vibrant atmosphere of his studio, brimming with art and possibility, she knew that this was her moment to rise above her fears. She was no longer the uncertain woman who had entered this world. She had tapped into her passion and artistry, finding the courage to share her truth. "Bringing my work to a wider audience is daunting," she finally replied, her voice steady despite the fluttering anxiety within. "But I realize now that my art represents a journey, one worth sharing." A wave of determination washed over her as she spoke. Each word felt like a brushstroke on the canvas of her life, creating a picture much larger than self-doubt. Those moments spent forging her identity, confronting her past, and embracing vulnerability had led to this point, a confluence of ambition and fear. "I want to curate an exhibition that tells my story, that sparks dialogue about belonging, identity, and the power of vulnerability," she continued. "I want to challenge the conventions of the art world by inviting others to explore their truths with me." Oliver's smile was affirming, radiating genuine warmth. "That is a bold vision, Jessica," he said, nodding thoughtfully. "You have the potential to create pieces that are not just beautiful, but impactful. The art you're producing comes from the depths of your experience. It's your narrative, and it deserves to be shared." Fueled by his encouragement, a spark ignited within her. She realized that sharing her journey through art was not merely an obligation, it was an opportunity to inspire others. It could incite discussions, provoke thoughts, and create connections beyond the gallery walls. Wasn't that the very essence of true artistry? "I'm all in then," Jessica declared, her heart swelling with a mix of excitement and resolve. "I'll start by finalizing my self-portraits and then plan how to showcase this exhibition. I want it to be immersive, a space where viewers can truly step into my experience and reflect on theirs. I want them to feel seen." "Let's brainstorm together," Oliver suggested, his enthusiasm infectious. "We could collaborate and amplify your voice to reach a broader audience. With your perspective and my connections, we can craft a compelling exhibition that highlights your journey." Over the next few weeks, their partnership flourished. Together they explored new ideas, selecting themes for her exhibition, crafting promotional materials, and even an artist talk to introduce herself to the audience. People often spoke of collaboration as a catalyst for growth, and Jessica was experiencing it firsthand. As she painted more self-portraits, each layer of color became a testament to her resilience. With every completed canvas, she excavated more layers of her identity, confronting the shadows and embracing the light. The process was both cathartic and liberating. Her fears gradually diminished as her confidence solidified. No longer did she shy away from the uncomfortable truths within herself. She had begun to own them. When the night of the exhibition finally arrived, Jessica stood in front of the gallery, her heart thrumming with excitement and nerves. The vibrant colors of her artwork adorned the walls, each piece resonating with voices of struggle, acceptance, and empowerment. Walking through her exhibition, she felt a sense of fulfillment flood her being as visitors engaged with her work. Attendees boasted an array of reactions, some deeply moved, others introspective, all of them connected through the rawness she had dared to portray. Listening to their conversations, she realized her art transcended her individuality. It resonated with the collective human experience, forging deeper connections with those who stood before it. Jessica had not only created art, she had invited others to participate in a dialogue, challenging them to confront their own identities. In that moment of recognition, she understood her purpose more clearly than ever. She had conquered the internal conflict that had once chained her to complacency, emerging as a vibrant creator, confident and capable. As the night came to a close, Jessica felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude wash over her. Each conversation, each nod of appreciation was a validation of her journey. Oliver approached her, pride radiating from his expression. "This is incredible, Jessica. Your strength shines through every piece. You've created something truly special here." "Thank you," she replied, her voice filled with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without your support, but I also know it was my journey that sparked this transformation." Jessica felt a warm glow wash over her, a solid confidence filling her spirit. Tensions within her had dissipated, replaced by a fierce recognition of her competence. She was no longer merely an employee at the diner or a young woman scrambling for approval. She was an artist with a voice worthy of being heard. The gallery buzzed with activity around them, vibrant and alive. She had taken a bold leap into the unknown, embracing her past while forging a new path shaped by authenticity. And as she stood amidst her creations, surrounded by an audience engaged with her art, she knew this was just the beginning. Armed with the knowledge that vulnerability held strength, she was ready to continue evolving, embarking on a journey that would push her boundaries even further. It was time to paint the canvas of her life with limitless potential. Her heart felt unbound. She had accomplished the unfathomable. She had conquered her fears, and she had truly begun to live. Now was the time to share this story, her story, with the world. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire you and ignite your passions. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It helps us share these uplifting journeys. Comment your reactions and theories about Jessica's transformation. We want to hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, let's uplift the stories of transformation and creativity.